Good evening, friends from all around the world. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, can you give me number 6? All right, good. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be able to host this Zoom meeting again. As you may know, I'm Dr. Amy. We are proud to invite Dr. Mark to tell you how to survive the pandemic by empowering with CellAge Plus. He will also be answering some of your questions and give you solution as well. Before we start, please allow us to introduce Dr. Mark. Okay, Dr. Mark is founder, dean, and chairman of the board at the University of Natural Medicine in USA and worldwide. After practicing integrative medicine for over 30 years, he is now an international lecturer, researcher, and formulator of natural products for stem cell, functional, and integrative medicine in Thailand, Malaysia, China, and other ASEAN countries and USA. He has traveled the world to the most remote jungle in South America, to some of the highest mountains in the world, searching for the most beneficial natural and beneficial substances and approaches for ultimate health. Excuse me, Dr. Mark, let me greet everyone in Mandarin. 全世界的朋友们，大家晚上好，很开心我们又见面啦。我是 Dr. Amy， 是今晚的主持人。那今天晚上我们将由我们的重量级人物 Dr. Mark 来与我们分享 CellAge Plus 如何与我们共抗疫情的。那 Dr. Mark 是美国和全球自然医学大学的创始人，也是大学院长兼董事会主席。他从事中西医结合治疗30多年后，他现在是泰国、马来西亚、中国和其他东盟国家以及美国的干细胞中西医结合医学的国际讲师、研究员和天然自制专家。好了，我不多说，让我们一起以6号来欢迎我们的 Dr. Mark。那如果你们听到我的说话，请你们以6号来欢迎我们的 Dr. Mark， 好不好？Yes, Dr. Mark. Yeah, enough of me babbling. Yeah, it's time for you to present.
Okay.
Let's welcome Dr. Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Amy. You're always so wonderful.
Thank you.
Good evening or good morning, wherever you are on this wonderful planet. Of course, right now on this planet, we're all going through some trying times and some very serious situation. That I'd like to talk a little bit about tonight. And what I think we need to realize from the get-go is we have our own, what we call an integrated holistic medicine, our innate wisdom. That's our natural healing power within us. And it's working for us all the time, 24/7. And if not, we would be totally overtaken by microbes. We're pathogens. We're constantly exposed to colds, flus, all types of viruses, bacterias. I mean, how many people have gotten food poisoning recently just from a lot of the bacteria and microbes are in food? And it's what our immune system does with it. We're always going to be exposed to these. And what we want to do is strengthen our bodies, strengthen that innate wisdom, that healing power within us. So not only are we able to possibly prevent being infected by these even dangerous and deadly pathogens, but if we were to contract them, that we would be able to deal with it. We'd be able to balance it. Our immune systems would be strong enough to be able to adjust it, regulate it. And if we do have the symptoms and such from the virus, then this product, CellAge Plus, can also help us recover quicker. So with that, I'd just like to do, I think most of you are quite aware of COVID-19 these days. I don't know if you can see the screen, but just a brief introduction as to what it is. Of course, it's coronavirus disease 2019. Where it came from, nobody knows for sure. There's not been any direct correlation or 100% verifiable evidence of where it actually originated. It could be natural or it could be man-made. Whatever, it's a novel coronavirus. By novel means we've never seen it on this planet before. It's not necessarily a mutation from another virus is what they believe. Now we're finding out more about it all the time. Many of you probably heard of SARS way back when, what was that, 10 years ago? And H1N1 and such. And it's similar. SARS is basically a severe acute respiratory syndrome and coronavirus. So now they're just terming it COVID-19, basically because it came about in the year 2019, or at least that's when they first started identifying it. So why is this virus so much more serious than other viruses we've been exposed to in the past? Now keep in mind, in America alone, anywhere from 25 to 60, 70,000 people a year die of the flu. So it's not a new situation, even though they're the most highly vaccinated country possibly in the world. They have one of the highest incidences and death rates. I mean, right now we're looking at this flu, around 250 plus thousand. Worldwide, over 50 million cases have been reported. Now that's probably a number that isn't even accurate because a lot of people will not report that they have been infected. A lot of people don't want to go to the hospital. A lot of people will have symptoms and get over them fairly quick, mild symptoms. And others, they don't even know they have it and they can be a carrier. Now, over 1.25 million documented deaths worldwide already. And we're just coming on to the flu season in certain parts of the world, particularly the Northern Hemisphere. So this is what I was saying. Most people infected with the COVID-19 virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illnesses, or possibly none at all, and recover without requiring special treatment. Now, the problem is for older people and those with underlying medical problems like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, chronic lung respiratory problems, cancers. Now, they're going to be more susceptible. Their immune system is already compromised, so they're going to be more likely to experience more extreme symptoms and possibly even death. So the one thing I mentioned too is a lot of people, at least this is, here comes the chanting, a lot of people will actually have COVID, be positive and not even know it. And they can actually be spreaders. Now, the thing about this one, it just spreads so rapidly, much more than they've seen with other viruses and flus in the past. So it can be spread primarily through droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose when an infected person either coughs or sneezes. So it's really important to practice respiratory etiquette. What does that mean? Well, it depends on who you listen to. They say the masks don't really protect you individually from incoming virus. I mean, it can to some degree. But when you wear a mask, if you were to sneeze and you were to be positive, you were to sneeze or you were to cough, you're protecting other people as much, if not more. So it's very, very important to wear masks when you're out this day and age because, for one, you don't know if you're infected many times. And two, it's so easily transmittable. And so wash your hands thoroughly, very, very important, and use hand sanitizer when you can. Those are the three main precautions they tell everybody to take. Now, this is what's different and very interesting about COVID 2019. If you could see this slide, you can see where the viruses are introduced into our respiratory system. We inhale it through our lungs. What happens is we have it creates inflammation. When a pathogen enters the body, the first thing our immune system wants to do is attack it. You know, what it's going to do is it's going to activate that army of our immune system with the monocytes, the macrophage, the dendritic cells, all those parts of our immune system that will go in and fight this virus, try to overcome it. And so what's happened with this COVID in 2019 or 19 is that it creates what's called a cytokine storm. It creates such an intense inflammation that the body essentially starts attacking itself because it's so powerful, and it inflames the system to such a degree and such an extent that it results in ARDS, which is acquired respiratory distress disorder, multi-organ failure, um, hyperinflammation, and syndrome, and even death. So that's why it is different in that effect that it has. Now, what they're also seeing, which is surprising because they haven't necessarily equated it before, but they're getting long-term effects from the COVID-19. What are those? One, heart degeneration. Now, that's serious because well, now we have stem cells that have shown a lot of promise with regeneration of the heart and even our formula. But what can happen is heart degeneration is very hard, very difficult to regenerate that muscle and those tissues. Another thing is lung and other organ degeneration and decreased function. It's debilitating in long term to many organs, the glands and the brain. Mental dysfunction, such as memory loss and mental focus and power. It's almost like a pre-dementia that can happen. It's like pre-Alzheimer's or dementia. Vision problems. People are having a lot of problems later after the infection with vision, loss of smell. And another thing they're correlating with the COVID are skin rashes, a lot of outbreaks on the skin. And and then a even extreme form of the degeneration that can happen are circulatory problems. And it can end up with what's called COVID toes or black toes, which look a lot like gangrene. And what that is just the circulation is being blocked there. Not enough oxygen getting to the extremities of the body. Now, they don't know if this is permanent or not, but at this time, it's something that they're seeing a direct effect of long-term COVID exposure. So it's not just the immediate acute. What they're seeing now is it can create a very chronic condition and complete physical and even mental degeneration and compromised system. So one thing we have that can help us in this situation is our all natural stem cell and immune enhancer formulation. Now, we like to call it stem cells in a bottle, but there are no human or animal stem cells in there. This is a total food formulation, and that's important to know. There's no vitamins, anything of that nature, just some very, very high quality extracts and some other various ingredients. But what we found is with this CellAge Plus, that we can regenerate wellness, people looking younger for longer, extending the quantity as well as the quality of your life. And we can live to be 90, 100, 120 even, or possibly even more in the future. But if we don't have a good quality of life, what's the use? We don't want to be bedridden and crippled. And now 80 people, I think it's 60% of people in America over the age of 85 get Alzheimer's. I mean, that's just horrific to lose all brain function, basically, until their systems just wither away and die. And also to nourish and activate your existing working cells. You have trillions of cells in your body. It makes us who we are. All of our energy comes from our cell, all of our skin, our bones, our brain, our tissues. Everything is composed of cells. We've got to create so many new ones on a daily basis, but we also need to give them the right fuel they need to create energy so they can do their job. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these cells too are immune cells. So with this product, we found too that we can awaken and empower your hibernating stem cells. Now, getting back to the core, stem cells are like the mother cell. One stem cell can produce billions of working cells. So without those, we don't have anything. They're the core. They're like the queen bee, per se, and they create all of our working cells in the bodies. So The ingredients in CellAge Plus are the only all-natural stem formulation that I've found in the world that has been proven and documented in the clinical human studies that we did, proving its ability to create millions of new adult cells in the body in just 5 hours. I'll show you that research briefly. Last time we had our presentation, I got into all the various research that we've compiled on this product and more in depth. But tonight I'm just going to breeze through that. Nourish and empower existing working cells, awaken the dormant ones, reduce inflammation in the body. Now, what I want to say about that, this is basically the most debilitating part of this COVID-19 is the inflammation it causes. And that's why you're going to see CellAge Plus can be so beneficial, not only, as I mentioned, for prevention, but also dealing with this inflammation once it develops. So we want to empower the immune system. The other thing about CellAge Plus is we've shown that it's 100% safe for the body. So this is some of the clinical research that we did originally, and on the ingredients in the product. And we show, you can see on the left there, if you can see the slide, that was done in America. We did studies, human clinical trials, both in America and in Asia. So the other one is the Thai. And you can see with both kinds of stem cells, which I won't get into that too much right now, hematopoietic and mesenchymal, we were able to increase by up to 5 times in only 5 hours. Then we did 30 days, we did 60 days. We monitored it over a period of time to show that this could feed, nourish, and awaken those hibernating stem cells. You've got billions that are just, basically what's happened is they're not getting the food they need. So it's like a bear in the wintertime. Well, you know, I'm not going to have enough food. I'll just go into hibernation. And so until they start getting that proper nutrition to feed them and give them the power they need and the energy they need to do their job and proliferate, then they're just going to basically shut down. But they can be awakened. That's the wonderful thing about it. And that's how we got such a quick increase in stem cell counts, because in 5 hours, it's very difficult to produce millions of new cells that quick. And we realize it's waking up the hibernating ones, and they're just sitting there going, hey, feed me, feed me. So heart stem cells proliferate growth, ingredients in stem cell food and nourishment. Here we took heart tissue and used just regular stem cells and what's used in a culture to grow them. You can see the middle picture there. We got a few, and they were just kind of here and there. But when we used the stem cell food, you could see we just got a burst of production. And the other thing about it that Dr. Steele saw on these slides is how active they were. They were just vibrant, you know, they were ready to do their job. So the real key here, and I'm going to go through this a little fast because I know you've got lots and lots of questions from what Dr. Amy said. I'm happy to try and answer them for you. But what this is a pure cell food and immune enhancer. Now, we created to have that dual fold process because I don't know how many of you have heard of what's called metabolic syndrome or syndrome X. That includes basically everything: diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, even Alzheimer's. And basically what's happened there is it's a total imbalance of the system. Now, the main cause of practically every disease that we know has an inflammatory condition. This is very important to keep in mind, because what we want to do, the immune system is very powerful, but sometimes it can be too powerful. Sometimes with the wrong ingredients that you think, well, you know, I'm strengthening my immune system, well, you may be empowering it too much to where it gets overactive. And that's called an autoimmune disorder, which today it's just chronic in the world, and partly because of all the toxins and whatever it may be. But this formulation is a modulator. I want to say that right off the bat. If your immune system is too weak, it can strengthen it. If it's overacting, like with regard to the cytokine storm, it can help reduce the inflammation in the body or balance it, which is so key, because it's this overactivity that's creating all the problems with the COVID-19. So your immune system, basically what it does is scavenge dead cells, cleaning up the dying ones, and destroys abnormal, cancerous, mutant cells, and it protects us from pathogens and things such as the parasites, the bacteria, the virus. Now there's 3 levels to the immune system, 3 lines of defense. The first 2 are innate, which means basically they're already there. And we'll get into those, and that's the physical and chemical barriers, and then the non-specific resistance, and then specific resistance, or what we call acquired immunity, that you develop as a result of whatever you've been exposed to. The whole key, as I mentioned earlier, we're constantly exposed to viruses, bacteria, fungus, you name it. It's out there. The world's teeming with it, and but it's our immune system, our body's own army that helps regulate it and control it. Now, some people call this the bioterrain, and Pasteur was actually a little bit off, and Louis Bouchard always says, hey, Louis, it's not the microorganism, it's the terrain in which it grows. And we said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, if you have pure water and you're growing bacteria in it, you're not going to get too much pathogenic material. What if it's a sewer and you put the same bacteria in there, you're going to get all kinds of pathogens. Well, it's similar to our own body. We also call it the microbiome. And you can see everything that affects it on the left: genetics, the environment, diet, lifestyle, hormonal imbalances, and industrial chemicals and toxic metals and such. Well, we have our physical protection and barriers, those being the nose, the mouth, the lungs, stomach, colon, even sexual organs, and our skin. Those are our barriers, our first line of defense to protect us from these invaders. So you can see here, skin, mucous membrane, cilia, stomach acid, urine flow. I won't get into it too much, but I think it's pretty obvious that those are our detox and our regulating and even our protection in our body. The second line of defense, you can see all of these cells you have, the monocytes, the macrophage, the DC, basal, nuke, all of these guys, the eosinophils, the T cells, the NK cells. All of those are naturally in our system. Now, they may not be activated and strong, and they may have depleted their numbers, but it's very important to keep these balanced and regulated. Too many of the lymphocytes and you maybe have a virus, and too many of the neutrophils, you're probably dealing with a bacteria. So they're wonderful biomarkers for being able to look and see what may be the source of the problem. Because many times, a virus has very few remedies that can kill the virus itself. Antibiotics do nothing for a virus. In fact, they probably help it proliferate even more. But so there are some things which we won't talk about tonight, but there is antivirals, broad spectrum, antimicrobials for fungus, virus, and bacteria. The third line of defense is basically what your immune system does to protect. It develops this immunity. Things such as antibodies, the T cells, B cells, all of these. And this is many times when they're testing for COVID, what they're checking is the antibodies. It's the PCR, the chain reaction. They're checking the antibodies, antigens, whatever it may be. And you can see, well, I had it in the past, but maybe it's over now. Some people who feel that they got it and they develop the antibodies, they're immune. Nobody knows yet. And we have no clue, at least all the science I've read on it, to be assured that it's not going to come back. In fact, some people have been reinfected, even though they had already gone through the COVID previously. So this just shows here the barriers to invasion. You can see the basic non-specific physical and chemical defenses, and then the innate immunity, and then the adaptive immunity. So the body defense, the immune system, that's basically, we couldn't survive without it. And we have to do what we can to feed it, to nourish it, to modulate it, to vitalize it. All of that is so important. And that's why CellAge Plus has all of these effects, and I'll explain why. So, as mentioned, trillions of microorganisms everywhere, you know, inside and out. So you have your good bacteria, your bad bacteria, all of that. That's a constant, I don't want to necessarily call it a war, but it's a balancing act. You know, I mean, who knows? Some of the bacteria may be beneficial for us. And of course, we do have beneficial bacteria through our whole GI tract that we want to continuously feed and nourish, which CellAge Plus is the key for that. So, oh, sorry, got a little jumpy there. The key about this product is it is a blend of food source ingredients. You know, it can't hurt you. It's like eating food, but it's eating food in high concentration and in a synergistic balance. We researched a lot of different ingredients and what should I say, nutrients and herbs and concentrates and mushrooms and all of that. And the one thing I want to mention about mushrooms is sometimes they can overactivate the immune system. So you have to have the kind, such as we use, that are regulators and modulators and not going to overstimulate an immune system that's already been energized and in inflammation to the max. So what we want to do is look at how we can modulate it, as I mentioned. So this is a functional food. I like that word, functional food, you know, because it's going to help us have more fun in life, right? Proprietary patent in USA. And there again, the wonderful thing about it being a food supplement is it's very easy to get regulated. I mean, every country is different, but much easier to get registered and regulated as a food supplement or a functional food than it is for a therapeutic supplement. It's different. No vitamins, no minerals, except just the natural occurring minerals in the ingredients themselves. So stem cell food and nourishment for the life force. What people don't realize, they say, oh yeah, I take enzymes. Well, you know, those enzymes are probably 1,000th of the enzymes in your body. You can see here, you have enzyme for energy production. If you don't have those in your cell, you're not going to produce energy. And ATP, that's the key for energy. That takes enzymes, ATPase. ACE means enzyme in most cases. You do have the digestive enzymes, the protease for proteins. And if that gets out of whack or deficient, could lead to cancer. Lipase for fats could lead to cardiovascular heart disease. Amylase, carbohydrates, diabetes. Diabetes is just, I don't want to call it epidemic, but it's just so pervasive and is exponentially increasing. And the thing I want to say about the next one is the enzymes, which are antioxidants. I think most of you have probably heard of antioxidants. You know, you've got the vitamin A's and the E's and the C's and all of those. But what most people don't realize is you have to produce in your liver 85% of your antioxidant needs daily. 85%. Now, in order to do that, you need to have just the right balance of certain amino acids, such as the cysteine, the glutamine, and the glycine, to make what probably everybody's heard of is glutathione. I mean, that's the popular one, mostly because it leads to whiter skin, and but it is a wonderful antioxidant. Why antioxidant? Because they fight free radicals. Okay, and I think most of you have heard of free radicals. They can attack cells and they can create havoc in the system. Kind of like I did when I was in college, and I was a free radical. but we need to balance those. They come from everything. I mean, smoking is one of the worst. Industrial waste, pollution, even electromagnetic frequencies from the computer and such, and the cell phones. All of those can lead to free radicals in the system. We've got to have the antioxidants in order to balance those. Then you have enzymes for anti-aging, things such as telomerase and stem cell enzymes. So, excuse me 1 second, let me have a little sip of water. These are just some of the benefits of CellAge Plus. I mean, we could go into the benefits and We have all that research accumulated, but clinically proven to stimulate growth, energy, and efficiency of all cells. I mean, a prime example is I hardly ever even remember having to cut my hair so often, and especially my nails. Like, well, I never have to cut my nails, and now it's just on a regular basis. I go, whoa, how can it create so quick? So it provides materials necessary for increased cellular, physical, and mental energy, builds and modulates the immune system. Liver protector regulates liver and kidney function. The liver does hundreds, maybe thousands of jobs on a daily basis. We've got to keep it clean, keep it functioning at optimal levels. Same with the kidneys. If your kidneys aren't functioning, basically many people end up on dialysis, and usually that's a sign that kidneys may not last much longer because they become dependent on that machine. Anyway, helps to detoxify toxic metals and chemicals. They found that toxic metals are probably the number one most serious free radical, particularly with how they affect the cellular enzymes for energy. They block that process, which I won't get into right now, but that's a whole nother lecture in itself. Quick recovery from exercise and disease and overcome fatigue. This is very important right now, especially with this COVID-19, because we want to be able to recover. We want to be able to overcome the deleterious effects that are happening as a result of this pathogen. And when you look at it, the numbers of people who died in China compared to the deaths in America, America's astronomical. America, on the most part, uses drugs, ventilators, medicines to attack and anti-inflammatories. That's supposedly what helped Trump the most was when they started giving him anti-inflammatory steroids. Of course, those are more chemical form. But in China, they took more of a natural route. They were using zinc, they were using herbs, they were doing acupuncture, and of course they still did the medical drug route too, but not as extreme. And the minimal, any death is more than what we want, but it was minimal deaths compared to what's happening now in America. Sometimes 10,000 new cases a day. So it's just become a pandemic, and worldwide too. India, Brazil, so many places, and it's getting worse. A proven brain food and brain cell protector. We did research to show that it can protect the noggin up there, the neuron cells in the brain. Produces antioxidants to combat damaging free radicals, natural anti-inflammatory, and anti-aging. Accelerate and enhances repair of damaged tissue and recovery from disease and traumas. Activates protein synthesis, the RNA and DNA, sugar, and fat metabolism. So with activating that metabolism and enhancing it, you're getting better utilization of your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates. Now, each one of those, of course, has its very, very specific function and benefit. Increased growth of beneficial bacteria in the colon by up to 400%. Now, this is so important because what we need to realize, and we're finding out more and more today in research, that it's the microbiome which is the key to our health. And the microbiome is basically the gut. We're talking about everywhere from the mouth and the throat into the stomach, into the small intestine, into the large intestine, all of those. And there's a bacterial balance that needs to happen on a continuous basis. And we were able to show how our food formulation, CellAge Plus, has ingredients which can increase. It's called a prebiotic, basically, in that you've got the bacteria, but they need the right nutrition in order to flourish and to be active and to do their job. And so we call that a prebiotic. There's also probiotics, which are the lactobacillus and the bifidus and all those guys. The thing about probiotic is you need to take them on a continuous basis. With prebiotics, you can feed the ones you have and they will continue to flourish. So it's a little different there. And as I mentioned earlier, our formula strengthens and improves hair, skin, and nails. We've had so many comments about the benefits and the growth there. So let's look at what's in this, all right? I'm going to go through each one rather than mention them all, but one is organic young Triticum sativum. Now, this is a young wheatgrass. It's grown very, very special way, and it's wonderful for the immunity. It's wonderful for detox of your cells. It contains the amino acids, just the building blocks of proteins, which, you know, is the key. Proteins are your antioxidants, your enzymes, all of those, hormones. Cholesterol, can reduce cholesterol. There's a clinic in Florida and one in California that basically uses wheatgrass juice to treat cancer and get wonderful results. You can see here, may alleviate inflammation. Now I keep going into that, inflammation. So the other one is what's called CGF. It's, many of you probably heard of chlorella. Well, this is a nucleic acid extract of chlorella, which is much stronger. And it has the RNAs and the DNAs for feeding the cells, balancing the immune system, reducing inflammation. So it has similar benefits, and also lots of chlorophyll, both the triticum and also the chlorella growth factor. We all know chlorophyll helps with oxygenation, and oxygenation is the key to life. I always say, you know, how long can you go without eating? Days, maybe months, some people. How long can you go without water? Oh, maybe a week. But how long can you go without air, without oxygen? You know, probably only a minute or 2 or 5. Some people a little more than that, but we're talking about minimal time, and you're going to get brain damage and oxygen deprivation. Well, that's also happening with, it's called hypoxia, which is happening with the COVID, because as it congests the lower part of the lungs, the mucus builds up and it congests the lungs, so we're not getting as much oxygen that's coming into our system. That's where the circulation gets blocked. So you can see the correlation and the flow there that happens as a result of these tiny little viruses we can barely even see with high-powered microscopes. But anyway, so the other ingredient is APP, Organic Horizon Sativa Cell Food. It comes from a very organic source in northern Thailand. And it has the polysaccharides in bioavailable form. Now, what that means, bioavailable means that your body is almost pre-digested. Your body can absorb it and utilize it much quicker. Now, without polysaccharides, which are carbohydrates, if we don't have those, we can't produce energy. That's our fuel, right? Then it has the polypeptides. Those are the amino acids in a wonderful balanced form for making proteins, which I had mentioned creates so much of the enzymes and the antioxidants and all that in our system. Some vitamins and minerals as cofactors for cellular enzyme production. Essential fatty acids, these are key as an anti-inflammatory as well, and good bowel function. And then some phytonutrients for stimulating enzyme production. Let's see here, it's not going down. Okay. Application, support body enzyme production, enhance circulatory system. So important, so you can reduce the inflammation in the joints and muscles, and also clear out plaque in the arteries. So you see all the benefits that each one of these ingredients has, and improves respiratory function. So important, cold, flu, pneumonia, asthma, allergies. You know, allergies are a serious problem in the world today, particularly with genetically modified microorganisms, because they're affected by this genetic change that the cells aren't used to. So, and it can react. Flucoidan, maybe many of you have heard of Flucoidan. Wonderful complex polysaccharides found in brown algae, and it helps with the immune system. It's been shown to be very beneficial. Cold, flu, hepatitis, HIV, that can even fight cancer cells, slows blood clotting, so you get better circulation of the blood throughout the whole system. You know, I like to explain that the blood is in many ways like an automobile. You know, if you don't change or put fresh oil in now and then, it's just going to clog up the system. Well, the same thing happens in our body. If we don't create pure blood and pure flow and circulation, it's going to get like congealed, and then we don't distribute things, the oxygen and the nutrients to the rest of our body. So it has been shown to be an anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective for the brain, immune modulating, there again, all of these ingredients. And I want to mention that we use extracts. Almost all of these are, or let's say 3/4 of them, are extracts, which mean some of them may be 100-to-1 ratio. It took 100 parts of this herb, and that's why they aren't cheap. When you take 100 parts of an herb and make 1 part extract, it's potent, it's high potency, so it's going to have more effect, but not overstimulating the immune system. Sesaplex and sesame, black sesame seed powder is phenomenal. Now, it does need to be prepared in a proprietary form, but it's great for the immune system. They've actually have done studies to show that it was able to knock out H1N1 and other viral diseases. So not only I'm focusing tonight on inflammation and the immune system. There's so many other benefits that each and every one of these ingredients has. Quercetin, I think many of you have probably heard of the flavonoids. You should take them with vitamin C every time, because the bioflavonoids and such, they help you utilize the vitamin C. And if you're not getting it with the vitamin C, then you're going to have to draw it from the body. And your C would be so much more effective if you do take it with the bioflavonoids. But quercetin is known to reduce inflammation, fights free radicals, antioxidant, reduced risk of cancer. Cancer, you have to realize, is a disease of toxicity and inflammation. And we've got to do what we can to keep every cell in our body vital, active, and nourished. That's the whole key. That's why we call this a stem cell or cell food, because it's providing the nutrition that those trillions of cells in your body need in order to regenerate, in order to function. Okay? Prevents neurological diseases. They're showing great results with the bioflavonoids in being able to reduce the inflammation of the brain, which leads to Alzheimer's. That's an inflammatory process that's going on up there from the road proteins and beta amyloids and things like that. Relieves allergies, prevents infections, lowers blood pressure, helps the heart. Curcumin, I'm sure you've all heard of turmeric, and it's a wonderful anti-inflammatory. They're showing such benefits there for heart disease. Now, keep in mind, you can have a little high cholesterol and have high triglycerides and not be a cardiovascular risk. It all has to do with the inflammation. And for years, I've always, anytime, test cholesterol, triglycerides and such, check for the good cholesterol to the bad one, and do things like a CRP, C-reactive protein, homocysteine, because they show the amount of inflammation that's happening in the body. It's the inflammation that causes the major cardiovascular problems, not just the cholesterol. We have to have cholesterol. It forms enzymes, hormones, brain cells, all of that. So, but it's keeping it all in balance. Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, even helps with depression, so, and different brain disorders. So turmeric and curcumin, I was at the expo in America last year. They didn't have it this year because of COVID, but 80,000 people there. I was just amazed at how many booths have sprung up. We're all selling curcumin. It's like, I'm going to call it the cure-all. And that's one thing I want to mention before I forget. And I always emphasize this. This product is not a medicine. It's not a drug. It is a food formulation. Therefore, we're not curing any disease. We're not treating disease. What we're doing is we're empowering the body, your own innate wisdom that's within you, to help balance and regulate your system so that you're not as affected by these pathogens and other circumstances that help in life due to our environment, our diet, and lack of exercise, whatever it may be, all those factors, okay? So Ganoderma lucidum reishi basically is a wonderful mushroom because it can boost the immune system, but it's a modulator, so it's not going to overactivate it. It's been shown to be wonderful. Hundreds of years, probably the Chinese have been using it, and other countries too. Influenza, swine flu, avian flu, all of those, just phenomenal. And for helping the lung with regards to asthma, bronchitis, and the congestion that now happens with COVID-19. Even great for high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So many wonderful functions of the Ganoderma. Also, another wonderful collection of ingredients that we put into the formula are the super berries. Now, these are high concentration extracts of some of the highest ORAC value, that's oxidation reduction capacity, which they measure how good the antioxidants are according to the ORAC value, ORAC. Now, red grape. Yeah, I'm sure you all have heard of resveratrol, which, grapes are high in resveratrol. Strawberries, blueberry, black currant, cranberry, raspberry, all of these together into one super berry formula, which has multitudes of benefits for the immune system and the body overall. Now, we add a little xylitol. Xylitol is a wonderful sweetener. I've been using it with patients for 30 years now. And it's one of the few sweeteners that doesn't have a glucose spike with diabetics. And I mean, everything in moderation, but one of the best forms is from the birch tree. But it has many health benefits too, because it is like a prebiotic. It actually feeds those beneficial bacteria and microorganisms in your gut. Now keep in mind, there's something called the raised patches. That's the area in your gut that actually enhances your immune system. So that shows, and what they're saying now, your immune system is located in your gut. It's not just your thymus, it's through the whole GI tract and how well it functions, and also how well it regulates itself. Detox is getting to be too strong a word these days. Everybody detox this, detox that, I'd like to look more at regulation, balancing, and modulating, rather than going through a major purge. And sometimes it's great to do a good cleanse, a good healthy cleanse. And if you're going to do any fasting, I'd recommend you do it with professional observation or guidance. Another wonderful ingredient for our CellAge Plus is what's called sun fiber, and it's a registered patented formulation. It's actually a very digestible fiber that comes from the guar seed fiber, and not the guar gum, which is different and maybe not as beneficial, but this is gluten-free. It's fantastic for the whole bowel. It helps with sometimes when you have these fibers, they can lead to gas, bloating, cramping, even diarrhea. And I will say with this product, occasionally we've heard of people getting a little bout of diarrhea, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it doesn't last a long time, you do want to flush your system out. I'll say this about colds and flu, which hardly anyone agrees with it in the medical field, but colds and flus can be beneficial. Of course, we don't want them to go on and deplete the system and even lead to more serious situations like the COVID in particular. I'm not going to welcome it into my body, but the colds are there for a reason. Fever's there for a reason. Fever burns off toxins in your system. In our clinic in Mexico, when we had it, we're treating cancer and many disorders with hyperthermia. It's high heat, artificially induced high heat for the body, so it can burn off the toxins. Very important. If the fever doesn't get too high, of course, there's a limit within everything. I mean, that's where we get into modulation and balance and regulation again. Okay, but this is really a very, what should I say, soothing fiber for your whole GI tract. And one of the benefits there too is it can lower hyperinsulinemia, which leads to metabolic syndrome, and leads to diabetes and cancer and cardiovascular disease, and all of these can be grouped in there, and immune compromised situation. So that's why it's such a great product. And there's the prebiotic. As I mentioned, the prebiotic is what feeds our normal flora You know, they gotta eat too. Everything does. And a prebiotic helps the population. It helps them be more active, do their job. It's like strengthening our army. You know, rather than feeding them pork and beans, you're feeding them steaks or organic food. Okay. The last one, pea protein. Our research has found that pea protein and hemp protein too, but hemp seed, is probably the most hypoallergenic, one of the most hypoallergenic proteins available today. It contains all 9 essential amino acids, as we mentioned, very beneficial for building your proteins in your cells, high quality aminos, very high quality ones that your body can readily utilize. Great supply of proteins for energy, easily digestible, and fast absorption of the fiber. Those are very important because many meats, I know many of you possibly have a big meal, and what do you want to do? You want to go over and sleep somewhere like a tiger or a lion after a big, heavy protein meal. So, sorry, a little noise in the background there, bike down below. Better taste and texture, good for the kidney and the heart. Allergen free, does not cause allergic reactions, and promotes appetite control and helps with weight loss. So we've had people as well say, hey, you know, I'm losing weight on this product too. And for some who actually were underweight, were balancing their weight and gaining in the right areas, not just in the belt lines. So many multitudes of benefits that all the ingredients contained in this, as I mentioned, synergistically balanced formulation, which means they all work together. They don't conflict and oppose each other. It's a food. You can take it with any medication because basically it's a food. It is just like if you're taking medication, you don't want to starve. And this is just a wonderful source of iron, high quality nutrients that are bioavailable and great for the whole body and mind. So why is stem cell food and nourishment? I've been through all this. We've got the research behind it, proven scientific research. No other company has been able to prove the actual cellular function and reproduction of both stem cells and your normal cells as well. So you've got to regenerate those. If you're not busy regenerating, you're busy degenerating, and none of us want to be degenerates, right? Cost effective. When you look at the cost of stem cell therapy these days, it's outrageous, it's ridiculous. And so this is an affordable, as I call it, sometimes stem cells in a bottle, but no stem cells in the bottle. They're just going to feed your cells. Market and public demand is just growing exponentially. I think once people realize, I mean, I would not want to go without CellAge Plus right now, just for 2 main reasons, even though I feel it's probably one of the best bowel regulators I've ever come across, is that for the immunity, strengthening the immunity, and also lowering inflammation. Those with the COVID are the key, the COVID-19 are the keys to being able to survive this. Hopefully, none of you will ever be affected in a serious way with it. Maybe just come in and do a little detox. It'll be some mild symptoms, and you know, it's okay. But my concern too is the long-term effects we were mentioning earlier with heart degeneration, with brain function, with all the organs. They're seeing total organ failure now as one of the end results of the COVID virus. It just continues to wreak havoc on the system. It's insidious, I guess you would call it. But it's just very hard to stop once it gets functioning. And then the effect with the inflammatory effect and the overstimulation of the immune system, the cytokine, those are the, you know, your immune system cells storm that just happens, that just, it's too much for the body to handle. So That's why, and it is so important to take CellAge Plus every day, because we're not going to be able to avoid this kind of exposure, and it may become even more pervasive. So we've got to build up, strengthen our bodies and our mind so that we can deal with it if it does happen. And that one of the keys there is build a healthy gut and a microbiome. So I don't know who put the end in here. I want to say it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the rest of your life, the first day of the rest of your lives. Okay? So anyway, that's my presentation for this evening. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mark, for your sharing. Yeah, shall we move on to the Q&A section?
I'm happy to.
Okay, some of the question in Mandarin. Can I read the question in Mandarin? Then I translate in English for you and followed by your answer. Is it okay?
Oh, I understand fluent Mandarin.
Some of the questions are in Mandarin.
I'm joking.
So I will still read in Mandarin and I will translate in English for you.
Sure, please do.
Okay, so for the first question, may I know if pregnant ladies are recommended to consume CellAge Plus?
You were going to say it in Mandarin.
OK，第一个问题就是说，怀孕的女士们可以喝 CellAge Plus 吗？OK，
I don't see any side effects. I would be a little cautious, possibly start off with this very small dose and build up. Now, keep in mind, this is food. It's just a concentrated food. So being as it is concentrated, you may want to be mild initially and moderate, and slowly introduce it into your system, because those little embryos, they need to grow. They want to get out of the inflammation. They want to develop their brain and their cells and their immune systems as well. So when they come out into that cold world from being in that nice cozy little warm basket, they want to be protected. And a lot of births happen in hospitals, as we know, and hospitals are just teeming with microbes and pathogens, and so we want to have as much protection there as possible. But just to be on the safe side, I would start with a very mild dose, a mild recommendation, maybe even half of a 3-gram sachet, and see how the body reacts, how it responds.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mark. Okay, second question. Okay, in Mandarin. 请问我有女性顾客吃了月事迟来的问题，是什么原因 ？CellAge Plus 会否会影响月事呢 ？Okay, in Mandarin, no, in English, does CellAge Plus affect menstrual cycle?
Affect what?
Does CellAge Plus affect menstrual cycle? Ladies, we have our menstrual cycle.
Sure. It's going to be a balancer. Imbalance of the menstrual cycle, whether it's dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea or whatever, can be due to a lot of things. It can be structural, it can be diet, it can be hormonal, and you may have to check hormones and such. But the great thing about this product is it's going to be able to provide you with the nutrients to build a strong hormonal balance. And it's going to reduce some of the inflammation that could have happened with a hormonal imbalance, and can help with stress, which is a key too. So all those factors, by getting the proper nutrition, you're going to be able to build a good hormonal system and thereby regulate your menses much more effectively. I don't think that I've seen that it overly increases the menstrual cycle. One thing we've seen is that ladies who are going through menopause, their symptoms can be reduced significantly, the hot flashes and such. And so it's been beneficial. And I haven't heard of any negative response to the product with regards to menstrual cycle.
All right. Okay, thanks, Dr. Mark. The third questions. 我的60多岁的顾客吃了将近3个月，一天4包没有任何反应，是什么原因呢？他之前注射过干细胞的。Okay, in English, I have a customer at the age of 60, have been consuming CellAge Plus for 3 months, 4 packets a day, doesn't feel any difference. Why? Special notes, he has injected stem cell treatment before.
Well, one thing you have to understand about stem cell treatments, injections, is you have to keep going back for more and more. They're going to wear off after a certain amount of time. Our associate and partner, Dr. Ann Steele, she actually developed the heart stem cell for heart transplants at Johns Hopkins Medical University. And why we originally developed the formula was she said, hey, we'd known each other for 20 years. She says, we're giving people these very expensive injections of heart stem cells and tissue. And they just don't last because most of these people do not have a real balanced diet, or they wouldn't have developed the heart disease to begin with, unless it's maybe, genetic oriented. But so what we wanted to do was create a pure food to feed these stem cells. That's why we're looking at something that people can take every day. And also in the process, build up their immune system. So that's why this formula is so exceptional, because it has a dual fold value. Now, one thing about the injections, I'm not sure if they were animal or if they were adipose or blood or what form the stem cells were. But like I said, they can wear out. And a lot of times too, I will say this, a big part of stem cell therapy out there is bogus. You just can't, well, I won't get into this too much, but it's a very, very technical process to be able to cultivate and then create new stem cells, no matter what they are, what type they are. And it can take 2 to 3 weeks. It's not something that generally can happen overnight, even though I've gotten a lot of slack over that with some of the doctors who do so, but particularly in US. So you may not feel so much, but I think what you'll feel in the long run is maybe increased energy, sharper brain power, and a resistance to disease. Your immune system is going to be stronger. Your stem cells, everything is going to be functioning at a much higher level. And I'm not sure what age you are, but come back and see me in 30 years from now. I'll be 30, I'll be over 100. and see if you haven't lived a higher quality as well as quantity of life.
All right. 各位朋友，如果您是听华语的或者是读华语的呢，在这边我们来不及跟你一一的翻译，因为问题实在太多了。接下来的我们有大概整20条问题，那我们会另外制作一个录影，是翻译遍，然后让你们去阅读你们的答案的，好不好？那让我们先继续，然后我们才能够回答到所有朋友的问题。好的，谢谢。Okay, question number 4. 顾客服用了1个月，早晚各1包，突然发胖了许多，停止使用1个月后就瘦回来了，是什么原因呢？ Okay, Dr. Mark, in English. Another customer that used to consume CellAge Plus every day and night for a month. Because of that, she has gained weight. And ever since she stopped consuming it, her weight has gone back to normal. May I know what is the reason?
You say she lost weight or she gained weight?
She gained weight after consuming for a month, and she stopped. Ever since she stopped consuming, then her weight has gone back to normal. So what is the reason?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Let me contemplate that one for a second, because that's unusual. Was she overweight to begin with or underweight?
She gained weight after consuming for a month, and when she stopped, and then her weight back to before.
So initially she was overweight, so she didn't want to gain more weight.
Yeah, she doesn't want. She doesn't want to gain weight.
Gotcha. Okay. The only thing that, one thing I would look at is if possibly she was getting so much better digestion that she might have increased her food consumption. That's one possibility. I'm not saying she did. Excuse me, but that is one possibility. And I'm looking at the thyroid, and it only has nutrients in there that can feed the thyroid, which would have the opposite effect, with fat metabolism. I would also, if she's my patient, I'd look at, has it helped with your hormonal balance? Do you feel maybe have just a better overall general well-being, sense of well-being since you were on the product? Other than that, just hard to imagine. It can happen. Anything happens. The thing about human beings is we're all unique. What's going to affect one person one way is going to affect somebody else in a whole nother way. So it's just impossible to say that each individual will have the same results. Now, I'd want to know how much weight, if she felt good as a result, how much, all those factors to really try to figure out what was causing the weight gain and what age she is. Is she going through, is she in the menstrual age? Is she, in menopause? All of that, or is she postmenopausal? All of those things to find out, okay, well, what could it actually have been? But I'd also look at, maybe might have increased some wheat flour intake, or because wheat is just, I must say, I wish everybody would get off wheat, but now it used to be rice noodles. Now they're mostly wheat noodles, and most of the wheat is genetically modified. Most of it is going to go into fat. If you look at how much obesity there is in America, and a big part of that is a result not only of diet pops and things like that, but the wheat consumption. Everything is wheat. Pizza, bread, donuts, pastas, you name it. It's wheat. And look at America, 65% obesity, 65%. All you got to do is you don't have to look any further than at the top. Donald Trump's extremely overweight. Anyway, so yeah, all those could be factors, Doctor.
It very much depends on the body conditions.
It does, absolutely. And exercise, getting exercise. One thing that's happened, of course, even me, is with this MCO, and that's happening many, many places around the world. They don't necessarily call it the MCO, but whatever, lockdowns and such, we get less exercise. The metabolism slows down because we're not out and about and active. And that in itself, the weight's going to go up. But does she stop? Yep, lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay, understand. Moving on. Question number 5. 顾客本身是有 thyroid 的问题的病患 thyroid means 甲腺 thyroid OK thyroid 大肠包 OK 广东话我们叫大肠包。顾客本身是有 thyroid 问题的病患，有服用医生开的药物，可是有隔开4小时才服用 CellAge Plus， 可是在服用 CellAge Plus 的那段时间，身体手脚非常频密的抽筋，而且抽到非常严重。 前所未有的抽筋程度，可是停止服用了1个星期多左右就不再抽筋了，是什么原因呢？ Okay, in English, Dr. Mark, a thyroid patient consuming CellAge Plus every day, but 4 hours apart from medication, meaning when she consumes CellAge Plus, she will make sure it is 4 hours apart from the medication. All right. And because of that, she is facing cramp in hands and feet seriously. Okay. Ever since she stopped consuming CellAge Plus, her cramp in her hands and legs have stopped. Why?
That is a mystery to me. No. I would, in a way, look at justifying that as initially some of the cramping and such could have been a result of, we'll call it a detox or the increased circulation. But it's unusual because usually it will happen in the other way in that its circulation has been increased. There's more oxygen, more blood flow, and as a result, there'd be less pain. So, yeah, I don't see how other than maybe it was creating a release of things like the chemicals and toxic metals, out of the tissues into the blood and getting distributed and then causing some pain in various areas. Now, I don't know that it's necessary to wait 4 hours in between medication if she's taken it. I mean, in between the medication and the CellAge Plus. Like I said, it's just a food, so there's no problem with even taking. First thing in the morning, I always have first lemon and water, warm lemon water, and usually some pure baking soda in there to alkalize. But after that, shortly after that, I'll have a smoothie with rice milk and coconut milk, blah, blah, bananas, blueberries, all of that. And I'll add my CellAge Plus to that. And then eat shortly after that as well. But that's food. I mean, that's almost my medication with all the, the formula, everything I put in there. And so I don't see any reason, any purpose of not taking it with medication unless your doctor's telling you not to. And that would be a different situation. And that's something I don't know enough about your particular situation, or what's going on in order to tell you that you can't take it, you shouldn't take it with your medication. So I like I said, it's a food. There's just nothing in there that, and what we've seen too is that actually with some of the ingredients, they've helped with things like chemical radiation and lowering the effects of radiation and things of that nature, like cancer patients, where it reduces a lot of the pain that they experience as a result. So, yeah, that was a mystery.
Okay, we will translate to the customer. Okay, question number 6. 许多顾客，包括成人和小孩，服用 CellAge Plus 以后有严重的便秘问题。顾客们本身是没有便秘问题的人。Okay, a few customers have said that they have suffered from constipation after consuming CellAge Plus. May I know why is this happening?
Boy, they're giving me all the hard ones tonight, huh? One thing I always recommend is when you're taking CellAge Plus, you really should drink more fluids. Very important because it is a powder. And, those powders should be somewhat not moisturized, but liquefied in order so that they're not so drying, which could lead to the constipation. Now, there may be some blockages in your colon. I mean, that's not anything that serious. Everybody has some blockages. I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the things I saw come out of people back when, we had our colonic machines and all of that, and did major detoxes. Won't get into that. It can be pretty graphic, but so I would keep working at it, and if it's not too extreme, hopefully it would get to a point where it would regulate. Now, from what I've seen and what I've heard, most people have wonderful results with regards to the regulation of the bowels with CellAge Plus. As I mentioned, I, of course, have always taken some kind of fiber most of my life, but when I first started taking CellAge Plus, when we first formulated it, I was just amazed at how well, how functional my whole gastrointestinal system was, and also with elimination, just how much it improved. So yeah, that's another one that kind of surprises me, but I just think try drinking more water. If that's not an issue, then you may just need to cut back some, but there's really nothing in there that will cause constipation. On the other hand, it actually improves because of the prebiotic and the probiotic that are in there. So different strokes for different folks, that's for sure. But I hate to see you go through that situation, and maybe has some effect with you that I'm not aware of. Not you, Dr. Amy, I mean the individual. Okay.
Okay. Carry on. Question number 7. 有一位顾客50多岁了，吃了2个月多，按照分量早晚各2包，可是没有感觉到有什么不一样，精神、睡眠等都没有什么不一样，请问为什么？ Okay, in English, a 50-year-old customer has been consuming CellAge Plus for 2 sachets each day and night. Okay, she said that she doesn't feel any changes on her body conditions. Why is nothing happening?
There again, everybody's different. This is not a stimulant. That's one thing you really need to look at with this product. A lot of the hyped products out there are stimulants, and everybody's going to feel good on them for a while, and then it may wear out, or it may wear their system out. Now with this, it's a total different situation and product, in that it is feeding the system, it's nourishing the system. It's not just a stimulating product. And the only thing about it is, I wish there was a way that you could gauge people's energy. We did a study at Emory University School of Medicine with what was called the MTT colorimeter. And it's the one machine I know of in the world that actually measures ATP production in the body, the human body. And we showed that we're able to increase the ATP production in the body and the overall energy by over 58%, from base with the ingredients in the product. So we know it can increase energy. What you're doing with that energy is different. Everybody's different in how they respond to something. And also, many times, okay, let's take, for instance, mushrooms, such as particular mushrooms and other beta glucans. They come into the body and they aren't absorbed through the cell wall. So when they come in, and beta glucans are a big thing. Used to be a lot bigger for immune system in the past, but now they're starting to phase out on it. Ours are alpha glucans and alpha glycans. What that means is the alpha can actually be absorbed into the cell. It just doesn't attach to the outside cell, and then the cell reacts. It says, oh, here's an alien attached to my wall, and it tries to get rid of it or destroy it or whatever. So that activates the immune system. With the alpha glucans is what happens is it actually is absorbed into the cell, and then the body with its innate wisdom can either use the nutrients for cellular energy or use it to feed the immune system. So, and build new immune cells. So it has that dual fold benefit there, which is quite different than the beta glucans and such, and how it works in modulating the immune system rather than overactivating it. And so with this individual, she may be using the ingredients to build new cells. Maybe their cells got depleted, and so now they're building them back up again. And then whenever we reach that level, then more of the ingredients and the product will be used for energy production, and then have more energy.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Moving on. Question number 8. CellAge Plus 对骨骼疏松症有帮助吗？ Can CellAge Plus help osteoporosis?
It depends with osteoporosis on how degenerative it is, how progressive. Yes, definitely will help, because part of osteoporosis has to do with the pH. With osteoporosis, of course, you want to cut back on sugar as much as possible, and all acid-forming foods, because what happens is the minerals in the bones and such, they're alkalizers, the calciums, the magnesiums, the zincs, potassiums, whatever they may be. If the system gets too acid, then the body will leach those minerals out of the bones and lead to osteoporosis. That's part of what happens there. And a lot of that is a result of too many acid foods and too many sweets. That is one of the big factors with osteoporosis and this leaching that goes on. Now, with our product, what's going to happen there is with it's an alkalizer. It's wonderful alkalizing herbs in there and ingredients. So it's going to create more of a better pH throughout the bloodstream and tissues, so that doesn't happen as regularly. So over a period of time, it could benefit. It probably will not get worse, but it depends on the stage, how long it would take for it to remineralize. Osteoporosis can be a very extreme situation, and bones can take a long time to regenerate and heal. It's one of the longest for the time it takes to regenerate bone cells. But the other thing about it too is with the stem cell ingredients in there, it is going to create more bone cells quicker than usual. Now, this is the other thing which I mentioned earlier with regard to the COVID-19, is because you're able to create regenerative cells, we have a product that will help regenerate cells with this heart degeneration that's happening post-COVID. Well, it's not even post, it's just one of the more extended effects they're seeing from the COVID, is that it will actually regenerate that muscle tissue quicker, whether it's bone, whether it's brain, whether it's muscle, whatever part of the body it is, it's going to regenerate quicker with this product. You may not feel it, see it, but we know it's happening because we did the studies to show, that we are increasing stem cells in the body to a certain extent. I want to mention this too. We did the 5-hour, 10-hour, 30-day, 10-day, 30-day, 60-day. And after about 30 days, some of our participants, stem cells started normalizing. They were going up, and then they normalized. And I called Dr. Steele and said, "Oh, Dr. Ann," I said, "I think after a certain period of time, people get used to this product and maybe they're not utilizing the nutrients anymore. She says, well, why do you say that? I said, well, because it reached a certain level and it plateaued. And she went, oh, that's wonderful. I said, well, why? She says, well, because you don't want to produce too many stem cells. This is one of the problems with the stem cell therapy today. They're finding more and more is they're not able to regulate the amount people are getting or what's going to happen. They can get too many and they can actually go into cancer cells. So, but with this, you can't because this is just a food. And so it's not going to overstimulate the production. So that showed in itself. Plus we were doing, the liver, the kidney, the immune system, all the blood work, CBCs, liver, blah, blah, everything, electrolytes, along with the product throughout the whole duration of the study to show that we did not jeopardize or compromise any part of the body, whereas the organs, the glands, the bones, the immune system, everything in every participant either maintained a balanced level, healthy level, or got better. So it just showed through the research, documentation, through the scientific studies that it was helping. It is creating improvements in the whole body and balance.
All right. Got it. Thank you. Followed by the question number 9. CellAge Plus 对博精深有帮助吗? How does CellAge Plus help Parkinson disease?
Well, Parkinson's is a very degenerative condition, and it's a progressive stage there, and it's neurological. Now, the great thing about some of the ingredients in our product, not only has it helped with inflammation, which is part of Parkinson's, but it's a neurological disorder, but also it has to do with a hormonal imbalance. And with our ingredients, what we're shown is that it can actually increase hormonal production. So we have seen some benefits with things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, the neurological problems, and even autism. I mean, I'm not going to say, hey, we've cured all those. I don't say that. What I do say is that the ingredients in this product have helped people with those conditions improve in their symptomatology, particularly because you're opening up circulation and the neurons and the nerves, as well as throughout the whole body.
All right, thank you. Okay, question number 10. Okay. 尿酸患者吃了 CellAge 脚果肿胀，去打了一针吃了消炎药，那么 CellAge Plus 还有效吗? Okay, there's one patient.
Oh, you cut out, Dr. Amy. Dr. Amy, I think you muted.
Okay, sorry.
Goodbye.
Okay, there's another patient. Okay, she has got the uranic acid. Okay, and after consuming CellAge Plus, her ankle became swollen. So he went for the anti-inflammatory injection. Does the drug affect CellAge Plus in any way?
Was it uric acid? Is that what you said? Uric acid?
Yeah, urine acid.
Uric acid, yeah. No, I think actually it could balance and have a beneficial effect. I'm surprised that it increased the inflammation. Other than that, immediately it may be moving the uric acid out of his body, I'm sorry, whichever. Moving the uric acid out of the body, and of course, a lot of times it will collect in the lower extremities first, that being ankle, feet, things of that nature. but the ingredients in there are none of them that would really feed uric acid. The pea protein may mildly affect uric acid, but that's one of the things about it is it's one of the proteins that tend to be low uric acid levels. So what's really important to look at with uric acid, and you can go online, there's so many foods you need to cut out. There again, sometimes with the CellAge Plus, I know I certainly noticed it. And I think I have the first little belly I've had in 70 years, but part of that's MCO2 and not getting enough exercise. But um, is that it can enhance digestion, and people may not notice it, but they may tend to be eating more and maybe more of the high purine foods, So you've got to look at eliminating as many of the purine foods as you can until you get back into a stable state where your uric acid levels have decreased significantly, and then you don't have the inflammation and the pain that results, as a result of it, and the gout and things of that nature.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, next. Can CellAge Plus help urinary tract infection? CellAge Plus 能帮到尿道发炎症吗？
Does it need help you recheck infection?
Okay, urinary tract. Unitary.
Yep. Will it help?
Well, okay.
With urinary tract infections. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, urinary tract infection, correct?
Well, one thing you need to realize with oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you need to translate or no?
Tract. Yeah. Can help, right? Yes. Yeah, we got your answer. Okay, next.
Urinary tract infection. Oh, well, I'm not finished.
Okay.
Should I answer that one?
All right.
UTIs basically can be a bacteria, and sometimes maybe a yeast, things of that nature, but those are generally called yeast infections. But so the immune system, you're strengthening the immune system, so it's going to benefit UTIs, but you still need to take it very seriously and make sure. I mean, sometimes you may have to take an antibiotic. There are other things like it's hard to get here, but colloidal silver and other antimicrobials that can get rid of a UTI and fight that infection. But it's just like COVID-19. This formula is so strengthening for the immune system that I wouldn't say, hey, don't worry about antibiotics, don't worry about it, just take this product and it'll knock it out, because it can take a while. It's a food. It's not like a drug that you take and, 1 or 2 days later it's gone, but then it's going to come back multi-potent, stronger next time likely. So because what happens with antibiotics, I'm not knocking them. I mean, they save so many lives, but you always have to make sure that you replenish the flora, the bacteria, the beneficial microbes, because it kills them all. And of course, the other thing now is that's one reason why we have these super microbes like MRSAs, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, is because they become resistant to these high potency antibiotics. And so it's created a major problem today. And so we have to look at how we're going to normalize that, how we can keep from taking too many if we can, but also balancing the friendly bacteria again after we've destroyed it. Because, antibiotics, most if not all of them, they don't have a consciousness. Well, I'm going to kill the bad guys. I won't bother the good guys. They unfortunately get them all. And so, because they're all bacteria. So, and then, many times people come up and say, oh, wow, I got rid of the bacteria, but now I have a terrible yeast infection. Well, that's what happens. We throw off the terrain and the microbiome, then you start getting imbalances. So the whole key with this formula is creating a balance. regulation, modulating, strengthening the immune system, so we won't have a tendency to have these type of infections.
All right, thank you. Followed by the question, one of my friends has type 1 diabetes since 9 years old. Okay, her hemoglobin index, so-called her hemoglobin index, hemoglobin index A1C is at 9 to 13, between 9 to 13, meaning over than 6.5. Yeah, she really a diabetes patient. Can CellAge Plus help her, and how?
You know, we did a study with just one of the ingredients in our CellAge Plus about 20 years ago, over 767 diabetics. And we were able to lower HbA1c and also just the blood glucose. But the main thing that we looked at was how we were able to reduce the symptoms. With diabetes, I often say diabetes is probably the #1 killer in the world today of the degenerative disease and metabolic diseases, because what you find is on a just exponential number of people with diabetes develop heart disease, develop kidney disease, have amputations, have all of these symptoms, all of these conditions that develop as a result of the diabetes, the heart disease, even Alzheimer's, you're showing a direct correlation now. So it made me realize that diabetes is many times the precursor. And it all has to do with hyperinsulinemia, if you know metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, which leads to these conditions, and so you've got to change that. You've got to change that metabolic process and balance it, which is just one of the keys to all of that.
All right, thank you. Followed by another. Okay, followed by another question. 请问对眼睛青光眼、飞蚊症、眼膜老花、黄斑有帮助到吗？ Okay, how does CellAge Plus help on glaucoma, floaters, and presbyopia, long-sightedness, and macular?
Well, macular degeneration is a serious one. You actually have severed the nerve there, so it's very difficult to reverse macular degeneration, especially if it's more progressive. Can improve because you're feeding cells. You can improve vision. Floaters is another story. I haven't seen anybody improve that, other than sometimes floaters can be a sugar imbalance, even hypoglycemia. So with this product, what you'll find is that your sugar levels, blood sugar levels, are more regulated. You don't go through as much hypoglycemia and hyper. Even with diabetes, that happens a lot. Of course, with diabetes, that's another thing, is the vision goes. So, and that's just basically degeneration, because they're not getting the fuel and the amino acids and the actual cell food they need for regeneration. So it goes into degeneration. And that holds true for the eyes as well. So, I think it can help with the floaters. And macular degeneration, like I said, that's a very, very involved, progressive degenerative condition. And so it may not help. I have one person taking the original source, and their macular degeneration actually improved. Now, if that's across the board, I have no clue, because I just haven't seen that many cases of macular degeneration.
Okay. All right, another question. A customer at the age of 50+ year old already has menopause, suffered pain in her legs for a week after consuming CellAge Plus, but recovered eventually and started feeling energetic. Now, can she consume enzyme products? Is it necessary?
Enzyme products, you mean the enzyme in our product or separate
No,
enzymes?
no, other product from friends.
Yeah, enzymes can be very beneficial. When we had our cancer clinic and degenerative clinic and retreat center in Mexico and America, one of the keys for working with cancer patients is enzymes. There's one called Wobenzyme, and it's a wonderful combination of various enzymes which actually go in and clean out the blood and improve overall function of the cells. So enzymes are wonderful. I highly recommend them especially when we get older, because as we get older, we may not produce sufficient enzymes anymore. That production, it actually dissipates as well as our stem cells. But so when you're getting the food now to create these enzymes, which I was talking about in the presentation, then it changes everything. I mean, you're getting better carbohydrate, better protein, better fat metabolism, with the lipases, the amylases, and the proteases. So, yeah, no problem at all. It's just enzymes can just help with overall metabolism and digestion of food.
All right, thank you. Number 17, another customer at the age of 50 plus year old has not gotten menopause, has been consuming CellAge Plus for 2 months. She doesn't feel any difference on body conditions, but her hair fall has increased. Why?
Increased,
Hair falling. Yes.
losing more hair.
Yes, hair.
Interesting. Um, Only thing I can imagine there, to look at the positive side of it, is that they may be growing a lot new hair too. So unless they're getting bald, then I would be concerned. But it also may be a matter of they're producing so much new hair. I mean, hair is pretty old, depending on how long it is or whatever. But if somebody shaves their head, it's probably not as old. But we are actually looking at creating a formula, and we hope to have it in the next year, which will take someone's own hair follicles and create their individualized formula for them to use for hair loss. As soon as we get an opportunity, everything has been set back by the COVID. I mean, all progress in so many areas, development has been slowed down simply because of all the restrictions of traveling and getting together and everything. But anyway, so I would say that it should start getting better. And one thing to look at too is the quality of the hair, whether it's getting softer, whether it's shining more, if it's if it's just getting brittle and tough, then that's a concern. But I just can't imagine why it would do that. I always go back to, and this holds true for the lady with pain in her legs too, is initially there may be a balancing act going on. There may be some detox, because we're all toxic. We've accumulated, and the older we get, the more toxins we probably have. Because heavy metals, they don't just jump out of the body. They don't just flush out. They go into the tissues. They get very embedded, and it can take layers and layers to detox sometimes. And so it's not just, take this formula and poop your brains out and you're detoxed. There's a lot more to it than that. Things like infrared saunas and even ozones and a lot of other factors. Hyperbaric oxygen that can really help with a good detox program. So we're not looking at this product being a detox product. It's more of a balancer and a regulator. And that too, that's one reason why I think people don't feel so much from it. You know, they're not getting that dramatic effect that many products have, and then they tout it, oh, that's beneficial. If it goes on, it's not so beneficial.
Okay. Question number 18.
Yep.
My male customer near the age of 60 was diagnosed with frozen shoulder earlier in June. He has been consuming CellAge Plus since the 1st of August, but his condition hasn't gotten any better. Any advice?
Yeah, I would go see a good chiropractor or a osteopath and get a good adjustment for the spine first. That's, I do that, but not here. Make sure that there's not a structural impairment that's leading to the frozen shoulder. Many times that can be the case. And I would really, really, with frozen soldiers, I call it, it's a new condition called CS. It's called computer, CS, computer syndrome and cell phone syndrome. Because what happens is we're putting our necks into the most god-awful positions now with computers and cell phones on a chronic basis, and it's totally whacking out our structures, and our muscles have to compensate. And so they're going to get stronger in some places and weaker in others. It's so important to keep those cell phones away from your head. And also even computers, you're doing what you can to reduce the electromagnetic radiation. Because even me, I'm way too much computer these days. And I notice I'll get some definite occasional blockages and pains that are direct correlation with the computer. With the cell phone, I don't hold it to my ear. I always use, most of the time, either the speaker or the earphones, so that I'm not cocking my head one way or another, or irradiating my head or other parts of my body. And I think definitely makes a difference. But the computer, it's just, I think everybody needs to could improve their posture when they're working on a computer, or it's going to just affect all the muscles and ligaments and tendons and bone and everything in our upper shoulders and neck and even lower back. It can radiate and affect everywhere because we compensate. If one place goes up, the other place goes down, or we compensate, we get tight, all those factors. So I wouldn't, the one thing is with the CellAge Plus is it can reduce inflammation. I notice when I take it regularly that I don't have as much pain in my body from computer and such. So I think it definitely has benefit. And it also helps with the pH, which is one of the keys.
All right, it's due to lifestyle matter.
Yes.
Okay, next, may I know if CellAge Plus can help with sinus? How does it work and what are the ingredients that help?
Well, if you're getting into something like sinusitis, that's more of an infection stage. It's itis usually means infection or inflammation. If it's just sinus problems and sinus drainage, first thing I always do is have people stop wheat, stop dairy. Those two things, stop them right away and see if things change. The great thing about CellAge Plus is it has none of that in it. Everything in there is hypoallergenic, so it's not going to create that sinus drainage. You have to realize sinus drainage many times is like an allergy. It could be a food allergy. It could be an allergy to dust, dust mites or dander, things like that. There's so many factors that can create allergic reaction. Sinus is the body's way of trying to get something out of the body. So when we get a cold, what happens? We start draining and draining and draining, and that's the body detoxing. It's body getting rid of something in our system that isn't meant to be there. So it flushes it out. And that's one of the benefits of having our nose and our sinuses and such. And And occasionally it can take a while because, you've got sinus cavities and a lot can build up in there. And if there's no structural problem, then it can take a while for it to drain out. But the CellAge Plus should benefit because of the anti-inflammation benefits that it has and the improved in digestion. But, for sure, get off of wheat and dairy for a few weeks and just see if it doesn't dissipate, because wheat is one of the worst. I can eat wheat flour, bread, or whatever it may be, and the next day I notice I've got sinus yes, congestion. It is just so automatic. So I just know I don't do well with wheat. So rice bread, other gluten-free breads, all of that. Get rid of all the glutens in your diet. See if that doesn't affect things. Well, we lost you again, Amy. Dr. Amy, lost your voice. Your mouth's moving, but nothing's coming out.
So sorry.
There.
Okay, next question. I have a friend who just recovered from COVID-19. Wow. Now she feel body very weak with insomnia,
你問你幫佢噴眼眼，我係怕字。
Does CellAge Plus help, and how does it help?
You cut out there for a while. Somebody was talking.
Yeah. Okay, I repeat. I repeat. I have a friend who just recovered from COVID-19.
Right.
Yeah. Now she feel very weak with insomnia, hair falling, and no energy.
Mm-hmm.
How can CellAge Plus help her?
Well, it's going to help give her energy to her ATP. That's the great thing about it. She may need to take quite a bit initially, just to really beef up her system and get her energy flowing again. But this is also one of the long-term effects they're seeing with COVID. And part of that, I think, I might have to move soon because I'm about to run out of electricity. My battery's getting low. I'm going to have to move in the other room, okay? By the electrical source. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. Let's see here. Hopefully I can get it plugged in before it's too late. Okay, I'm back. Now we're talking about COVID-19, right? And fatigue. So I see your mouth moving again, but nothing coming out. We lost you again. Now, your mute button must be on.
All right. So sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, so it can really help because, for one, I think, and nobody's shown it yet, but I really think that this COVID is affecting people's thyroid. The thyroid is for oxygenation, it's for fat metabolism, it's just so many things, calcium metabolism, so many things that the thyroid does in the system. And part of it's energy, and that's one of the first signs, and hormonal balance with the thyroid. And it may be affecting her hormones. She may be feeling depressed, low energy. So it's very important that she get those hormones balanced again. And she may even have to do some testing to see just how her thyroid is doing. And you can't just do T3, T4, T7, and or TSH. You got to do more in-depth testing on the thyroid to really determine the true function. And I'll say this, I haven't seen a normally functioning, very few normally functioning thyroids in years in all my practice, especially with women for some reason. Maybe it's just more evident with women. It controls menstrual, controls everything, it has an influence. So in that capacity, it's going to help because it's going to increase circulation, get more oxygen throughout the body. There's just getting more cells and getting more energy with the ingredients that we have that are going to increase energy production and utilization, you should feel a lot better. But she might even want to try, I assume it's a woman, kicking it up to maybe 2 twice a day, 2 sachets twice a day, and see what happens. And it's very interesting, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is the long-term effects of COVID, which I think are worse than just the initial symptoms that happen from any flu or virus, with regards to the detox and the lung congestion and the coughing and the sneezing. Yeah, you got to realize coughing and sneezing, those are also ways of getting things out of the body, particularly sneezing. You get a little microbe up your nose, what's going to happen? A little piece of pollen up your nose, you're going to sneeze to get it out. So those are just natural reactions to elimination. So first you should try boosting up her dosage on it and see if that doesn't help. Okay? Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yeah. Last questions?
Yep.
And depression. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Dr. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, last question. Yeah, last question. Can CellAge Plus help with anxiety and depression?
That's one thing that a lot of the ingredients in the product have helped a lot. Just overall sense of well-being, of just feeling healthier. It may not be a big energy booster like some people are looking for, with some of the stimulating products, but it's a builder. That's the wonderful thing about it. It's a builder, sustainer, and balancer. I wish the individual who'd gotten COVID would have had this product before, and the symptoms may not have gotten as extreme. I don't know when they first started taking or if they even have, but I would certainly start right away because it can only have beneficial effects. But yeah, that's one. The hormonal imbalance is part of depression. Stress and anxiety, a lot of that comes from our own heads. We've got to do what we can to lower that, whether it's prayer or meditation or yoga or exercise or all of those factors. And of course, not eat too many sweets, because one thing that happens with sweets, it may give us a little boost to begin with, and then after that it's crash city. What goes up must come down with sweets. And also it's just going to throw off the whole balance of the body and the brain too. So sweets can be wonderful. I mean, they're like a feel-good food sometimes. And people aren't getting enough sweet in their life, they're going to want to take more sweets. So that's more the emotional aspect of it. But we've seen such regulation there because of the balance of hormones. I'll always say, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not a drug. The drugs take quick action. That's what they're all about. So it's more a matter of watching how things build. It's like building your system. We're looking at longevity and quality of life and not just stimulation. So very important. And I'd like to also just mention here from all the talking we've had, how important it is with COVID-19 now that people maintain certain levels of things like a good zinc, maybe a good vitamin C with bioflavonoids, and very, very important for the immune system. And this is one of the biggest obstacles I see with health and patients. I had a clinic in Malacca for 20 years ago, but Asians don't like the sun. They want to keep white skin, right? So
yes, because Asians are dark enough.
Yeah, so important to get that vitamin D. I just can't stress how important that is. Just 10 minutes in the morning is all it takes. 5, 10 minutes. You're going to be getting enough, and you don't have to show your face. You can show other parts of your body, your back or your arms, legs, whatever it may be. You can keep the face more white or whatever for the people who have a concern about that. And you're not going to get bad UV radiation that time of day, significant for 10 minutes. So it can actually be beneficial in so many ways. Also, exercise. So important to exercise. And there's really no excuse. People can even get a rebounder at home, the little mini trampolines. There's so many things you can do, and just walking, whatever it may be, to get some exercise. And also some relaxation techniques, whatever you can do to lower the stress level. Right now, with everybody being more homebound, I think there's a lot more stresses, maybe because of spouses or maybe because of children, whatever it may be. We're just being cooped up, we're not getting as much fresh oxygen. So we need to get oxygen. And diet. I mean, it's so important to eat as organic as much as possible. Be sure and drink lots of fluid. One thing I find with Asians, they don't drink enough water. It's just like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, it's hard to lead many Asians to even water to get them to drink. So it's just not a focus as much. And it's very important. We've got to keep the system flushed. Oxygen, water has oxygen, it has life force. So pure water, not just this unfortunate toxic water they have here out of our faucets. It's just amazing. I don't think they still cleared it up completely. So things like that, very, very important in order to be able to keep our system functioning optimally so that we can resist this virus when it comes in. Not even resist it, just not have extreme results or effect that it can have on people whose immune system is more compromised. And that's why this product, we developed it for not only feed all the cells, but including and especially as an anti-inflammatory, and to fight these pandemics like this, to be able to um, um, strengthen and empower individuals' own innate wisdom inside them to be able to heal themselves and to maintain optimal health.
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean. After all, it's still about our lifestyle, about our diet.
Yes.
Yeah, to balance our immunity, and again, drink more water.
Yeah, you're right on.
Yeah. But there are three more questions. How effective is CellAge Plus for skin allergy?
Skin allergy?
Yep. After taking certain food.
Skin allergy can many times be the liver. Our skin is our body's largest eliminator, which means if we've got allergies coming out and rashes and such, it means we're trying to get rid of something in our body. Now, CellAge Plus is great in that respect because it can lower the inflammation. One thing they're finding with COVID-19 is incredible rashes. And as I was mentioning earlier too, even black toes, or what they call COVID toes, where they turn black. First they turn red because they're just not getting the circulation. Then it's almost like gangrene. They turn black and it's like they're dead. And I don't know if that's permanent or not. I haven't seen any long-term studies to show that, but they're seeing so many skin conditions pop up now. There again, it's the body trying to eliminate those toxins, eliminate that virus, eliminate the inflammation, congestion that's happening in the system. It's an overreaction. And many times allergies are autoimmune disorders. It's an overreaction to something. But also they have to look at the liver. Go get your blood done, and somebody have the blood done, SGPT, SGOT, and check the liver enzymes, LDH, and just see if you've got a toxic liver or not. Very important for skin and allergies, eczema, psoriasis, things like that.
All right. Okay, next. Would CellAge Plus help improve hyperinflated lungs?
Hyperinflated or inflamed?
Inflated, hyperinflated lungs.
Huh. I wonder how somebody gets hyperinflated lungs. Inflammatory, I can understand. Inflated,
Mhm.
there has to be some swelling going on there to create that. Well, sometimes a prime example is if somebody gets an enlarged heart. The enlarged heart, it gets bigger because it's not functioning as well. And so it gets bigger so it thinks it can function better, and then that creates a problem in itself. And maybe the lungs, if it's inflated, are going through the same thing. Now, I'd wonder, if they had maybe gotten COVID-19, because this is what happens. It's one of the first conditions is as the cytokine storm comes and puts all of this immune cells into the lungs, they overreact and they start creating all this mucus in the bottom and of the lungs, and it starts to expand and build up all this fluid, and then they have a harder time breathing. I mean, Trump is a prime example of that. He walked up one flight of stairs and he could hardly breathe when he got up there. So that's what happens. They put a lot of people on oxygen. Unfortunately, in my opinion, what I've seen, one of the worst things that can happen, and I could get a little slack about this, is going on ventilators, because many times when people go on ventilators, it's the last straw. And one way of looking at it is they're so extreme, then they need it to survive. But the other way of looking at it too is when they're at that stage and they become dependent on a ventilator, very difficult to come back, and your lungs be functioning optimally. So I would say there's something going on in this individual's lungs. I would say it's more of an inflammation rather than an inflation. Um, I'm just, it's, I guess not, my expertise is not in inflated lungs because I've never really experienced that, except possibly just overcompensating, getting larger because maybe they're a smoker and the alveoli aren't working as well, so they're not able to get that oxygen exchange, and as a result, what they could do is build up bigger lungs to maybe expand the area so they could get better oxygen utilization. So that's what I would think would be going on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Last questions.
We said that
A
before.
friend.
Joking.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the question keep coming in. Okay, a friend just diagnosed with brain stroke. Brain stroke.
Right.
How can CellAge Plus help, and how many sachets would you advise to consume a day?
What age? Doesn't say what age, right? Age?
Age?
Doesn't say?
No.
Okay. Well,
Doesn't mention about age.
we have seen over the years, working with some of these ingredients, dramatic improvements with stroke patients, stroke individuals who had stroke. I call people cancer patient or call them a stroke patient. The individuals who had this condition and seen 55? Oh, no, maybe not. Anyway, so one thing is going to increase circulation. That's one of the key factors, and also it's going to help unblock some of the blood vessels that have led to the stroke, if that's directly what it's related to. There again, they need to get structural improvement. Maybe there's a blockage in their cervical vertebrae. They need to open that up. But with the CellAge Plus, it's going to help with circulation. It's going to help make the blood better viscosity, which means flows better. A lot of times with strokes, it's just got too thick, too many blockages, and just cuts off the oxygen, and the circulation to the brain. So then it can get extreme blockages, and then it can be total. So we've seen it, and also with the cellular repair, with a stroke, particularly stroke affecting the brain, you get a lot of cellular damage, and even maybe the oxygen may have been blocked for a while, and that can lead to brain cell death and destruction. That can happen a lot. Anytime you deprive the brain of oxygen, and that circulation is not going to function as well. It's going to start degenerating. I mean, we know that when people get suffocated or whatever, it doesn't take long, to cut off the oxygen to the brain, and you're brain dead. So that's so important. I mean, oxygen is the fire of life. It's the spark. We've got to have that. More toxins we have in our environment, more oxygen is going to use to metabolize it. So detoxing is so important. But as I mentioned, with each of the ingredients, many of them there, for one, they're going to lower the inflammation in the blood vessels, because that's what can happen. The inflammation, they can get inflamed, and they get too thick, and it can cause blockages. So it's not so much the cholesterol as the inflammation that's happening and the weakness in the blood vessel, and then the body sends the plaquing there to secure it and to hold it and to support it. So, and then that leads to, more blockages and more impairment of the circulation to the brain. So this can help open it up. With regards to dosage, gosh, if they can even take it twice a day, 2 sachets twice a day, they're going to get quicker improvement. Now with CellAge Plus, we've noticed and expected this, is that sometimes it's a powerful substance, and sometimes it may be too much for some people. They may need to cut back a little bit and slowly, gradually build it back up in their system. Maybe somebody who got diarrhea or something like that, or whatever, something that could have occurred as a result, cut back, if they feel like they're having any kind of reaction, and start slow. There's no hurry.
All right. Okay, that's all for all the questions tonight. I think I got your message, whatever it is. Anyway, CellAge Plus is just food, it's not medication. So when we consume, we have to go with our body conditions, and we can increase the amount, or we can reduce the amount.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Accordingly.
Okay. Yeah. 各位朋友，我们听了我们的 Dr. Mark 讲解了那么多，但是所有的问题我们会一一的翻译了过后，给你们答案 ，OK？ 不过听了 Dr. Mark 解释了那么多，最重要的就是要记得，就是像 CellAge Plus 其实它不是什么药物，它是一种食物，我们干细胞的食物。所以说要吃多少包，一天要吃多少包，其实是个人的身体有不同的吃法。Dr. Mark 说你可以调多一点点，你也可以调的吃的少一点点。Anyway， 所有的那一个问题我们都会给你们翻译，再给你们解说的。Okay, if there are no more further questions, let's thank our Dr. Mark for this wonderful sharing, and we hope we can continue to learn from each other. Okay, if you still have any further questions, please feel free to visit our Facebook page and drop us your inquiry. Or you can contact our working partner directly. We will come back to you as soon as we can. OK， 各位朋友们，我们谢谢我们的 Dr. Mark， 也感恩你们的陪伴。希望我们有机会一起学习再学习。那如果你还有一些问题想让我们的 Dr. Mark 为您解答的话，您可以在我们的 Lavia Facebook 留言，或直接联络我们的工作伙伴，我们将一一为您解答。谢谢大家咯，今天我们到此为止，好不好？大家晚安。Thank you, Dr. Mark. Here ends the session for tonight.
Yeah, and thank you. You're wonderful as always.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.